Okay, item number 3 is an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of the Bronx, docket number 15-4085, block 5821, lot 2910, 4601 Fieldston Road, in the Fieldston Historic District, a Georgian Revival style house designed by Dwight James Baum and built in 1927 to 28. This is an application to demolish a carport and construct an attached garage addition, and to modify the rear facade and construct a new dormer.
Thank you.
Morning, Commissioners, Lisa Schaefer, Preservation Staff. 4601 Fieldston Road is located right over here. And this is the front facade of the house. And this is the current site plan. And there's currently a stucco carport, which is a non-historic feature, which is a little hard to see, but this is part of it over here. And the proposal is to demolish the carport and to construct a new garage. And this is the footprint of that new garage. And I just want to point out that this one-story addition was the original garage for this house. It was originally an attached garage, which was converted to, I believe, an office later on. And this is the proposal. This is the new garage. It will be brick, and then there is a connector, which is glass. And in addition to the new garage, the proposal also includes some alterations on the rear of the house. This is the existing rear facade. This was the original garage structure. And the proposal is to add a dormer and to alter these 2 window openings as such. And the architect, Steve Burns, is here to take you through the proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioner. Stephen Burns here from BPSK Architects. While today may be Bob Tierney's
Penultimate, correct.
day,
Yes.
hearing, I want to say, in my mind, he is the ultimate chair of this commission, with whom I have the privilege of serving for 6 years. I think he served longer than anyone, 10 years plus.
Yeah.
And the Landmarks Commission has made tremendous strides under his leadership.
Thank
He
you.
will be missed.
Thank you.
But he's got another many acts to follow.
Thank you very much.
So Lisa did a very good presentation. I think the important thing to know is that, yes, the house was built with a one-story wing in the back that was converted into part of the residence a number of years ago, and an extremely unattractive one-story carport sprawled and took up virtually the entire rear yard. So when you look out from the house, all you see is either building or structure. And the owners wanted to create a garden in the backyard to restore some of the original landscape in the house. If you notice, the building has, and by the way, it's designed by James Dwight Baum, who's the great seminal architect in Riverdale. This is one of the key lovely houses on the circle, beautiful Georgian design. It has a central Georgian block, which is 2.5 stories tall, flanked by 1-story flat roof additions. And those, or I shouldn't say additions, wings. And if you look at the site plan, you can see that those wings are clipped at the corners. And so what we wanted to do was to diminish the amount of pavement on the property, to get rid of an eyesore, and to generate an addition that emanates from the design of the original house, which has this angle on the side here. So what we wanted to do was to show a floor plan. So if you look at the floor plan on A5, you can see the side wing here with the clipped corners, and then a glazed link between the existing historic building and the new garage. Would have an entrance into a mudroom and then a 2-car garage. The site kind of goes down a little bit as you go there, just down a couple of feet, plus the fact that the side wing has very tall ceilings and a parapet. What we wanted to do was to make the addition continuing the line of the flat roof over the side wing, and then to generate a hipped roof that, you know, echoes the main hipped roof in slate, and that the height that is a result of this, both the fact that it goes down a little bit and we want it to line up. We didn't want to make it look like just a squat one-story garage. It gives us actually like a small loft above the garage where they can have storage. It's currently designated to be finished space, but that's what we wanted to animate the facade with a little bit more in the way of windows. The staff asked us to look at other examples in the neighborhood of buildings which had attached garages that were visible from the street. And so we've actually looked around. This is our height, and within like a 3-house radius, we found 5 other examples. So there are plenty of examples in the immediate neighborhood. And the one that's probably the most important is the one directly across the circle from us here. So our house is here, and the other one is there. And that happens to be this one here, if you look at the big picture here. It also is the same kind of tripartite arrangement with a big center block with 2 low side pavilions. And it has, off of that, again on a 45-degree angle, an attached 2-car garage. So it actually is extremely similar to what we want to do. This happens to be Mediterranean, ours is to be Georgian. And you can see other houses that also have attached visible garages from the street. In the rear, yes, we want to add a dormer in the rear, which I think was shown. I mean, you can just show the other visibility, the other shots showing visibility. So if you look at, let's see. Yeah, starting with A18, this is look at it frontally. Here you see, this is really the primary facade. You see it before, you see it after with the side wing. On A19, kind of coming around on the Fieldston Road. Now this is really focusing more on the garage itself. You can see it sort of down in the dip, rotated off of the line of the side wing. Then further down the road, here you can see, and before that, you begin to see that large flat-roofed carport, which would be removed, and it's showing the addition of the side there. A21, the staff was interested to see to what extent do you see it from the parallel street, and so we showed it from Delafield or Island maybe. And they're just tiny little glimpses of the house as you look through. And you really, I think, you can hardly see what's being proposed there at all. And then finally, far down Fieldston Road on 822, 5 houses away, just at the long shot, you can see what it looks like. And in the back, I think what was shown was the dormer in the center. There are no changes to the roof in the front or the sides, only to the back, which is a center dormer. And then 2 windows which are not visible from the street. One in the living room, it has kind of a narrow arched window in the living room looking out to the backyard to make that into a larger window, and then a kitchen window on the other side which has a very high window sill. It's about...
Point the drawings?
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry, Marjorie.
It's over.
Where is it? There we go. How about A9? So at A9, you can see the dormer, the top. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the arched window that was turned into a Palladian window, wider in the living room. And then on the left, this is a kitchen window that has about a 4.5-foot high windowsill, giving it about a 3-foot 2-inch windowsill.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Yes.
Is the back of the garage visible from anywhere? This elevation here, this west elevation, is that visible from the street?
Not that I can see, no.
And then another question. How did you figure the proportions for the connector? It's this 2-story connector, but it's a 2-story height, but it's not a walk-through at both
It's
levels.
actually kind of like a height and a half.
Height and a half.
Because the grade goes down a bit, we have to walk up, it's about 8 steps or so to get from that mudroom up to the first floor. So we basically just lined up the ceiling. The first floor ceiling lines up over there, so you're entering a half a flight below. So it's like a height and a half.
So, a couple of questions about the windows. Dormer on the back, how'd you decide that proportion, and what's your intention for its relationship with the rest of the house, the segment large?
We wanted to have a width. The third floor has tiny little windows, tiny little windows. And this is to be more like a communal family room upstairs. So we wanted it to have some width. Obviously, there's a precedent for the dormers to be arched, but to do a full arch would have been, I thought, overwhelming, so we did a segmental arch. The building has obviously a series of curves. There's this whole rear wing here is a curve as well. And I just might add that I have no apologies for the dormer. I think it's fine, but it is, I think, almost virtually not seen from a public way.
And same kind of question for the garage, second story or faux second story windows. The proportions of them, how'd you come to decide them? Because they strike me as a bit different than the rest of the house's windows, which are a bit squarer.
Yeah, we definitely wanted to make them subservient, and they were not to be. They're not faux windows. They're on a
Faux second floor.
They're like a loft or
Okay.
like an attic space up there. But we wanted the bottom of that hipped roof to line up with the flat roof that was adjacent. So we had a certain height to work with, and we didn't want to make this. We wanted to make this sort of a secondary, ancillary element of the facade.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Any testimony on this? Okay.
Thank you. I think that this house is one of the four horsemen of Riverdale's of Fieldston district. It's on this iconic circle that's really the picture postcard view of Fieldston is these four houses that surround this circle and that face it at a diagonal to the non-grid grid of the Fieldston streets. So it's a very, very important house and very, very visible. And I think that generally the work proposed is perfectly appropriate. I think the volume and the nature of the siding, as Steve has shown, is completely contextual and is handled in virtually the same way in the building across the street as he has identified. And even though that two-story garage is tall, it doesn't in any way detract from the symmetricality, the frontality of the presentation of that house, and I think this would do the same. I would suggest that the applicant study the proportions of the garage windows. They strike me as being, I don't think that you would lose the sense of their secondary quality, their submissive quality, if one made them more similar to the proportions of the rest of the house, which even on its secondary facades and on its subservient facades show a squarer window. And I think that that it's true that one can't see the rear dormer, but again, if it were possible to maybe think of some other form that were more compatible with the house, maybe another small gable like there's in the front. I don't know, there might be some other way of making it, but I think it's totally appropriate. It's nice.
I agree. Important house, important location, so this should be a beautiful few tweaks and changes to this great house. The only thing I would suggest, again, working with staff, would be to make adjustments to that rear dormer. I can accept the idea of a new bigger dormer there, maybe two dormers there, two smaller round dormers, something like that. But I think this, to me, even though it's not visible, the house is too important to get that wrong, and that just seems slightly wrong. But otherwise, everything else is fine. The garage, the proportions, the windows, the new window in the rear, all of that is fine with me.
I agree with much of that. I think if the new garage was only one story, it would be just like the carport. It would really not do it for me. I'm actually okay with that rear dormer. It immediately evoked to me Old Westbury House at Old Westbury Gardens, and I think that it works very well, and I think all of this is appropriate.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with these comments. Initially, I thought that the garage was just a little bit too tall, but then when I understand the ceiling condition, I realize that it's the right move, given the site conditions. And with respect to the rear dormer, actually, when you see it in axonometric, the proportions of it actually look right with that bowed second floor. So I actually think it is the right approach.
Yeah, I think I agree with most of the comments that have been stated to date. I think that the size of the garage is appropriate with the large house, and the way it's handled, I think, fits nicely and is contextual. I was a little troubled by the glass connector, but listening to the reasons for the size and how it's working inside with the building, it seems appropriate. And I think that I agree with that the rear dormer actually does fit well with the second floor of the rear there, and is appropriate. So I can approve it as presented.
Okay. Well done, respecting this important house, which is no surprise to me at all, that it would come to us from you that way. And I think it's a totally appropriate application, and I believe the issues relating to the dormer and the windows can be, you'll think about what was said here, we'll approve it, and with this, as you're executing with the staff, have those refinements if required, and ask hearing to be closed with a motion and a second, and Michael Goldblum, please.
As regards 4601 Fieldston Road in the Fieldston Historic District. Oh, okay. The application is to demolish a carport and construct an attached garage addition, and to modify the rear facade and construct a new dormer. I recommend approval, finding that the existing carport, the removal of the existing carport will not eliminate any significant protected features of the house, that there is historic precedent for attached garages on early 20th century houses in the district and on this house, that siting the garage to the rear of the house and separating it from the house with a glass structure will help to maintain its subordinate relationship to the house, that because the structure connecting the garage to the house is mostly glass, the solid mass of the garage will be distinct from the house, that the materials, details, and fenestration of the garage are harmonious with those of the historic house, that the location of the driveway entrance and its width will remain the same, that the alterations to the proposed to the rear existing extension will not cause the removal of any significant historic features, that the presence of the rear dormer is consistent with the style of the house, and that enlarging the existing first floor window openings on the rear facade will not cause the removal of any significant historic fabric. I also recommend that the proportions and form of the some of the windows be studied with the staff.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Approved. Thank you. Thanks, Steve.